Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Larry.
Welcome to Manipod.
Hi, I'm Melissa Tittl, and I'm taking over this podcast with Mike and Larry. We're going to talk about weird stuff like UFOs and aliens and spirituality and whatever I want because it's my podcast.
Brought to you by Manipause.com.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Manipod podcast. I'm Larry, and that's Mike. And today we have a really special guest. It's a little bit of a departure from our normal podcasts we've been doing, but both Mike and I love this topic.
Oh, yeah.
Our guest today is Melissa Tittl, host of the podcast Cosmic Cantina, about all things supernatural, multiple universes, alien life, prehistory civilizations, and government cover-ups. Melissa has an impressive resume, and she's going to be embarrassed about this. She graduated from the University of Wisconsin with a degree in TV and film. She was an assistant to the head of production at Paramount Studios, where she worked on movies like Star Trek and Mission Impossible 2. And she was a writer on Ancient Aliens for 5 years. She's also a member of the Producers Guild of America and the Women in Film Association. Wow, I'm exhausted already, Melissa. Welcome.
Good job.
Yeah.
And she's only 20. So
That's right.
how did you do all of that in 20 years?
I'm almost 21. I'm going to be drinking legally soon. It'll be so much fun.
All right. We're going to dive right into this. I'm going to start off where we're going to start in the present, and then we're going to go back a little bit. But your motto is go big or go home. Great motto, similar to Manipause's, which is live life, live young. But so before we get into your backstory, you have a popular podcast, as I said, called Cosmic Cantina. Why don't you tell us how that got started and what it's all about?
Well, currently, I just want to say thank you for having me on the show. I love talking about weird stuff, especially with a bunch of random dudes. So this is totally my thing.
Well, you're talking to Larry right now, so he's random and weird. It's perfect.
And you're not. Okay, cool.
No, I'm cool. I'm cool.
All right, so Cosmic Cantina. So currently my job is I am the head of content at Gaia. So Gaia is a network where we have all kinds of weird stuff. It's sort of like Netflix of the weirdness, right? So we have everything from yoga and meditation, which isn't that weird, to government conspiracy, aliens, Galactic Federation, you name it. We're all here. So I'm the head of content there. So these two guys, we're all on the side, sci-fi writers, besides the fact that we work at Gaia. We would just go get beers on Thursday after work and just talk shit about all this stuff. And then I'm like, this is a podcast. We should just record this. And basically, that's what all the podcasts are. We're friends. We do our own research. We have our own point of view, and it's kind of fun. We have a beer. We have a glass of wine. Some whiskey.
What's your favorite wine?
I love a Malbec. I'm a Malbec.
Oh yeah.
Or a Pinot.
Yeah.
Noir. I love Sancerre if it's a white wine.
Yes. Good
And
taste.
Gruner. I like a good
Okay.
Gruner.
So she knows her wine. Okay,
knows her
we
wine.
established that. So Melissa, how'd you get in the entertainment business to begin with?
Well, I went to school for TV and film. I'll keep this short. I love this question because it's like, where do we start? So my internships at NBC turned into a job. My first job was an editor. I thought it was awful. I'm like, who would ever do this job? I never want to do this job. I'm going to pay someone to do this job. and thank God there's editors because I just can't stand it. I'm so proud of those people.
And they love it. They love what they do.
They love what they do, and they're great at it. I was just not good at it. So, and then I just packed up my car in Wisconsin and drove across the country. I didn't have any place to live. I didn't have a job. I knew one person, moved out to Los Angeles, slept on their floor, and then just worked my way up, all the way from the bottom to the top. I think my first year in LA, I had 30 production assistant jobs because they're short. So it's like a TV show here, movie here, that kind of thing. And then I landed a position as the executive assistant to the president of feature film production.
At Paramount.
Yeah, Paramount Studios.
And so
then I was there for quite some time.
So what kind of stuff did you do on Star Trek and Mission Impossible 2? Were you coordinating production? Were you interacting with the actors? What kind of stuff were you doing?
Well, all of the above.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, I'm not on set because I'm in the office, but that's what I wanted because I learned the most about the business the creative side and the business side by working in that office, because it's like, the creativity part is the fun part, but then you really learn how that actually manufactured itself into a business.
Yeah.
So it was awesome. But everything from dealing with Tom Cruise to, ordering private jets to, somebody's drunk on set, everything went through that office, which was awesome. Like people would come, and I remember No Country for Old Men.
Oh yeah.
Great movie.
How could I forget?
Josh Brolin and
Josh. No, the guy, the writers of the movie.
The writers. Yeah.
You're gonna have to cut this out.
It's all right. It's all right. They'll be mad now. They'll be mad.
They'll be mad.
We'll do a little voiceover where you're saying
While you're thinking of that, I just have a quick question. If I told you I was 5'8", would you say I'm taller or shorter than Tom Cruise?
You might be taller.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Okay.
He's really nice, though. I don't know.
Yeah, that was mean. God.
No, I wasn't mean.
Sending negative vibes out. I don't like that.
I said I'm 5'8", so that's already starting off at a lower level, all right? So...
Back up to my story.
Yeah.
So I remember... we'll go back to that. I remember when the Coen brothers came in to pitch No Country for Old Men, and I was such a fan of them. I mean, it's like a nerdy obsession. Like I was never like obsessed with Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, and all those people who come to our office. We have to deal with them. I mean, they're attractive and they're hot and they are who they are. But I'm just a nerd, so I was like, obsessed with these guys. And they the way that they pitched No Country for Old Men was they would complete each other's sentences. I mean, I know they're brothers, but it was so odd. But I was like, how do they do that? Anyway, so I was just like, that was like the only time where I got starstruck. Everything else was like, whatever, just.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, that's that alone is something that a lot of people who go to Hollywood aspire to, right? Is to get a job like that where they're working in the industry, learning the trade, and ultimately working themselves up. But at some point, you realize that maybe you had a different calling where you decided you were going to, as you put it in one of your discussions, change your algorithm. So why and how did that happen?
Well, I don't think it was because I decided to, change. Like I didn't have a UFO experience or anything like that. I always have been a weird kid. Like I've always been a little bit of a tomboy. I was always my dad would talk about this stuff all the time. I just thought it was so cool. Like anything that wasn't, anything that made me think outside the box, even as a little girl, I was excited about. What were, could the attic be haunted? What does that mean? How do they interact with us? I was just always a weird kid. I was always into this stuff. So when I had the opportunity to kind of leave Paramount Studios to produce, got a really old show on History Channel called The Universe, which is just science. There's no alien in that series.
Yeah,
I was pumped because I got to work with NASA. I got to work with NASA scientists. It was the first show that they were attempting to really explain quantum physics to the general public in the mainstream. I mean, that's just stuff that they wouldn't explain, but they attempted to in this series. And then from there, the owner of Ancient Aliens, the executive producer, saw my resume come across and like, she'd be great for this show. And I just jumped on. I'm like, yeah, great. More space stuff. And then I just never left the space. I mean, I just literally took off from planet Earth and I've been stuck in space since producing this stuff. But
that's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah. Oh, how do you differentiate yourself and your theories from, let's say, flat earthers or creationists or even the moon landing fiasco, deniers, right? How do you differentiate yourself?
Well, I have this theory. I talk about it a lot when people interview me about stuff. Is that there's a grain of truth in every theory, right? Everything. It doesn't matter how crazy it is. Like, I don't necessarily believe that it's a flat Earth at all. But but there's a grain of truth in that thinking somewhere. And so instead of looking at things like they're right or they're wrong, or this person's totally making this up, or this person's telling the truth, because you just get caught in a rabbit hole in this space. And a lot of people do. They spend their whole life just telling other people they're wrong and that they're right and proving that their theory is right. And I'm just thinking that's just a waste of time, because what is the one thing out of everybody's story that seems to be the same? And then that to me is always the story. So instead of like, I mean, I can have like a private chuckle about some people that I think are a little nuts, but for my job, it's why am I wasting my time? Because I'm just going to get more people to prove to me that they're right. It's not forwarding humanity. We're not going to find aliens by fighting about like what exists and what doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was a kid and I was taking history, I always thought it was peculiar that you go from cavemen to hunter-gatherers to pyramids that we can't build now. Mm-hmm. And I always wondered, how is that possible? And nobody back then, I mean, that was like in the 1800s that I went to school. Nobody back then was talking about this kind of stuff until Eric von Däniken came along with Chariots of the Gods, right?
Right.
And that was a book that I read in college, and I just thought, wow, I don't know, how much of this is true, but it sure seems an interesting way to think. And that's kind of what got me interested in all this, as we've talked about in the past, Graham Hancock, and I love the Ancient Alien shows, because even though sometimes they go off onto a tangent where, I'm like, I don't know so much about that. They are bringing up things in a sort of scientific way where you could say, yeah, that's a really good question. Why are there civilizations separated by time and space that build the same thing or have the same belief structures or religions?
Right.
And I think that's the kind of stuff that you are investigating and trying to bring to light on the things that you do.
Agreed. I totally agree. I also want the idea of finding out if aliens exist, which at this point in time, we have so much evidence that we just can't physically be the only biological beings ever to exist in this universe, the X universe, or multiverses, whatever. It doesn't mean that you believe in gray aliens. It just means there's got to be something else out there, right?
Right.
But I also think the search for alien life defines humanity more, and that's what we really need to figure out. We're circling ourselves with patterns of history for thousands of years. We're fighting about the same stuff over and over again. But the search for life outside of the planet is to define what makes humanity powerful and different from something that's not. And the idea is that then it's a one race, it's human race against something else, right? So that's like how the human brain seems to look. I see it as a religion now. Like people are really searching. They're like out there. They're like, okay, well, I just talked to the aliens last night. They have a message for everybody,
right.
which is great. And then maybe they did.
It's not a whole lot different than when you watch some of these evangelical preachers who talk about the God has spoken to me and he has told me that I need to tell you this. It's not a whole lot different than some of these aluminum foil wearing people who hear alien voices as well. I mean, I think, there is that conflict of people who cannot possibly believe that humans are not the only life that God ever created, and other people like you and me and Mike who are like, I think there's other stuff out there.
Right. Do you think that with all your experience, all the years that you've been studying this and working in this area, are there UFOs? Have you ever seen any? Do you know people that you absolutely 100% believe have seen them, have talked to aliens? What's your take on it?
I have not seen a UFO. I feel that if you want to see a UFO, and it's not that hard. I think just like anything, if you want an angel to show up and talk to you, I'm sure you can manifest that.
That's a good point.
So I guess I said that not to make fun of people that do. It's just more that I don't feel like I need proof. I feel like they are real. I've been researching this for like 12 years. I've been researching this. And the thing is, there's so many cases of people who don't know each other, that didn't know each other back in the 50s, that didn't know each other back in the 60s. Now we have social media, so somebody can say, I saw this, and then somebody can just say they did because they want to join the party. But there's so many cases, there's so many incidents. There is something happening. I can't give you specifics all the time because then I'm falling into a camp of I believe this versus this.
Right.
Definitely is something happening, 100%.
Wow. Larry and I live across the polo field from each other. And I see at night, if I'm driving up to my house, I look over the polo fields and I definitely see something above his house. I'm not sure what it is, but there is some alien activity above Larry's house. So I don't know how to explain it. And I was hoping you would, Melissa. So that's pretty good.
Well, I think the first thing you need to do is stop the reefer. I think that would help. But the thing is it seems like as time goes on now, there is more sort of legitimate stuff coming out, like the Navy video of that UFO that they tracked, right? The head of the Israeli Space Force program or whatever, he came out and said, oh yeah, the Americans have been negotiating with aliens for a long time. So did he have a stroke? Or is he just saying, I got to tell people about this? There's a guy, he's on all those Ancient Alien shows, Nick something or other. Yeah, he worked for British intelligence, or the British Defense Ministry. You have the guy from Canada who was also in the Defense Ministry who has come out and said, yeah, there are UFOs. So all these people can't be crazy.
Hi there, I'm John O'Hurley. During one of my spiritual journeys in the hinterlands of the Himalayas, I encountered a shaman who spoke only one word to me: manopods. That simple utterance has tormented me ever since, until I found Manopod, podcasts for men over 50, chock full of wit, wisdom, sex, health, sports, travel, and so much more. Give me a huzzah! And now my revelation is yours.
Yeah.
Can they?
No, I mean, they just add more credence to some of these people who can't explain an event that happened to them in 1985 where a UFO was above their car and they couldn't talk to anybody about it because then they would be seen as a crazy person, right? So those people get to come out and they get to say, yeah, I had this experience happen to me, and they're not so crazy anymore. Government officials definitely coming out. I think this is the idea of the slow disclosure that people argue, like everybody wants disclosure. Well, the thing is that even if tomorrow President Trump and Biden held hands and said, aliens are real, still half the population would just think it was a political stunt. Right. So the slow bleed into the idea, how it could happen, how they're here, how they communicate with us, raising our consciousness level. That is how they're doing disclosure, from what I've gathered from information that I've been, writing stories and interviewing people and all this kind of stuff.
So you think they're trying to keep people from panicking? So the slow disclosure is a way to do that? Or do you think that they're just finding out now?
No. They're not just finding out now. They're doing it in a way so that people are not freaking out. It also gives a lot of people the idea, it gives them something to do, right? So if we go back to my theory that this is kind of a new religion, and if government leaders, you notice that these people come out as they leave, right? And they're like, here, I got something to say. What do they have to win by that,
Right.
Nick Pope is bored. Maybe he wants to sell a few books. Maybe. But for the rest of his colleagues, he looks like a crazy person. So why would he do that? Right. And that's exactly what the Israeli guy says. He's like, I don't care. I have tons of credentials. You can ruin me in the press. I don't care anymore. So what's the point?
Yeah. The Rand Corporation, I think it was back in the 70s, came out with a white paper about this very subject, about how it's very important that the government not release information about contact with aliens because of the worldwide panic that it would create. And so it makes sense that they incorporated that into the idea that, well, we got to keep it secret. And then if we ever do have to release it, it needs to come out in dribs and drabs. But the other thing that was thought-provoking was, I don't know if you remember, Stephen Hawking said, I'm not sure that we should be sending all these radio signals out because we don't know who's going to come. It could either be E.T. or it could be the guys from Independence Day. We don't know. And so what's your thought on that? I mean, is you think there's a jungle tendency, a survival of the fittest mentality that's universal, or is that something that's earthbound?
I think alien life is a lot like human life in a sense that there's people that have agendas and people that want to help, right? And maybe it's a little bit of both. There's this idea that the aliens are good versus bad. I mean, like, that's just saying that all people are good and all people are bad. Like, there's people that might do bad things to you, but at the same time, there's people that want to help you. So I think if humanity can understand how powerful the human body and the human mind and the human heart is, I think that we'd stop running around looking for aliens to save us, and at the same time being afraid of something we don't understand. Because
we also have to be cognizant of the fact that good and evil, as we understand it, is our definition of what life is, right? So in other words, when you look at the deep oceans and you see that there's all kinds of animals, some are running, some are chasing and eating without any guilt or anything, not because they're mean or evil. That's called survival. And so the question is, would an alien race that comes here and says, man, we need this planet, but we don't need all these pesky ants on here, destroying all the human life would not necessarily be an evil thing in their minds. It would just be like, hey, we just like when you clear out ants in your backyard or get rid of pesky raccoons or whatever. It's like, we're not being mean. It's just that we got to live our lives, right?
But you're also scaring the crap out of me right now. So stop it, will you?
I'm just saying, it's not all going to be.
That's why the lights are over his house and not yours.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay, good.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that's something that we have to.
His loyalty to his overlords, and you have not. So you should be afraid.
Yeah, I, for one, welcome our alien overlords. As Kent Brockman always says on The Simpsons. So here's a question that's a little bit off the beaten path, but since, again, you've been researching this for so long, right? It's something I've been thinking about for a while. Let's say that you were the head of science for a prehistoric advanced civilization, say, call it Atlantis, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And because of your science, you know that your civilization is doomed. Something is happening, and there's no way for everybody to survive or your technology to survive. And you know that when you guys go down, that Earth is starting over again, where people are going to be living off the land, not have technology. What would be the best way in your mind to let people know when they get of age that you existed?
How much time do I have?
As much as you want.
45 minutes, or do I have like 100 years until the end?
Let's stick closer to the minute part than the years. Yeah.
Yeah.
But 45 is fine if you need it.
45 minutes?
If you need it. Yeah. It's a tough question. But you're head of the science department.
I only have 45 minutes. So,
oh, you mean how much time do you have before?
Yeah.
I thought you meant how much time do you have to explain it?
God, no.
No. Let's say you have 6 months.
I only burned a minute, being like, God, what would I do in a minute? The world's gonna end.
No, let's say you have 6 months.
6 months.
And it's a cataclysm that you cannot. Let's say it's an asteroid coming, and there's nothing that can be done to change that. You have 6 months.
I would. Considering if it's Atlantis and we have high-end technology of sorts.
Right.
I would build a lot of the ancient structures we see today and leave behind codes for humans to figure out how powerful they are.
Mathematical codes?
Both. Mathematical codes, symbols, language, connections to star systems. And the funny thing is because I write these shows too, without aliens, with aliens and without aliens. You know, I can do both. The funny thing about ancient civilizations and people that analyze these areas is they get stuck in one area, just like when we read a religious text, no matter what it is, we get stuck on one word, one verse, and then we just it's again, we're like back in the cycle. And I feel like all of us know that we have the answer, but we just keep going back to the same place. And that is why people are still fascinated by the 7 great wonders of the world, or, you know, Göbekli Tepe. Like, you know, they keep digging. They're like, maybe we'll get to the bottom of this pillar, because there's still something we haven't figured out. We just keep looking at these things like, why do they build them? And then, you know, every year someone comes out with a new theory, and they're like, that has to be it. That's it. That's what they did here. That's it. That's all it was. But
Right.
if I was the head of some big department of Atlantis, then that is what I would do, because the only thing that would survive would not be technology like we have, like skyscrapers and stuff.
Exactly.
It would be stone buildings with carvings and mathematical codes within it, so that someday they could figure out what humans are capable of on this planet.
So the thing about that bothers me, though, it's the one thing that still drives me crazy. I mean, the Egyptians were good at it. The hieroglyphs and pictures they left behind are sort of clear. Hey, this guy's on a boat. It looks like he's going to the afterlife. Very clear. Some of the other ones that you see, though, are enigmatic in the sense that it's like, what? You know, and so if you're advanced, somebody like you with your brain, you know, you might tell somebody, hey, I want you to carve this on this stone, but make it as explicit as you can make it in general terms, because you don't want to say, oh, well, show them our, you know, Robototron 3, because they're not going to understand what that is. But you might say, show, you know, depict a city accurately so that they can see what it looked like. I'm wondering why there was not more of that.
I don't think there was enough time. Right?
Well, that's the thing. Maybe not.
So I feel that some of the what survives is the ancient structures. Like, there's many debates on how old the Great Pyramid really is. Right. So they'll say it's, you know, mainstream will say something like 3,300 BC. You have other people saying, no, it's like 100,000 BC, you know, whatever. But the thing is that it's like a Rubik's Cube. Nobody can they can't really figure it out. Doesn't matter how many theories, we're all still like circling this thing. Like, what is it? How do we turn it on?
Yeah.
Because all the other pyramids are miraculous. I don't know if you've ever been to Egypt at all. I've been to Egypt. I've been to most of the pyramids in the Giza Plateau. Yeah, I've been to all the pyramids in the Giza Plateau.
Did you go into any of them?
Huh?
Did you go into any of them inside?
All of them.
Yeah, I went inside too. Wow. It was kind of interesting because you just feel the weight of that structure on top of you. It's very peculiar.
Yeah. I flew over one or two on my way. No, we actually landed. That's right. We landed in the airport of Cairo. So yeah, we saw some of them.
Yeah. Well, you saw that. I actually went in.
Hold on. You went to Cairo and you didn't go.
Well, we landed and then took off again we were on our way to Uganda or coming back from Uganda.
Yeah.
So
I went on a separate trip where we went there, we went to the Sphinx and we went to Saqqara and all that. And yeah, I mean, when you look at those pyramids, you know, you look at it and you can't imagine how those things were built. Again, that whole idea that right before the Egyptian society, they were hunter-gatherers. And now they're moving multi-ton stones up in the air 400 feet. How the hell are they doing that?
Well, maybe they weren't hunter-gatherers. So the hieroglyphs come at a later time. And there's a reason for that. So once the dust settles on whatever catastrophe might have happened, this is just a theory, that then the old sages that remembered the stories went and put them all over the place, taught everybody all the secrets, you hear this all the time, the idea of mystery schools. Freemasonry didn't come from Europe, it came from Egypt, right? It's like all of these, this idea of the Illuminati, all that kind of stuff is rooted in ancient, I guess you could say Atlantis type of understanding of how the universe works. And the reason why they were mystery schools is because religion did not want these people to be teaching this stuff because, we were at a different point in humanity. So this is why hieroglyphs are so amazing, because you're like, wow, look at this story. But they finally had time, and it was safe for them to start putting things on walls and for people to see. And here's the thing, you're right. This is a boat. It's going to the underworld. But even that is depicted. What is the underworld? Is the underworld the underground Giza Plateau? Is it literally death? Is it literally the rebirth of the sun? Structure of the day? It's up for debate.
Yeah, although the Book of the Dead opens up some of that, so you can, if you can read that and then you can look at the pictures, it's like, oh, I know what he's saying, right? But there's lots of stuff like supposedly under the left paw of the Sphinx is a chamber that they have found with the radar sounding, and of course the Egyptian government won't let them dig down there, and so it's the kind of thing where, boy, if you want to start a conspiracy, that's how you do it. You say, hey, there's a chamber down there, and I think even Edgar Cayce said that it was there, and but we're not letting you in there. Okay, well now.
Well, this is how it kind of works there. Especially now, they're really cracking down on people talking about Atlantis. People that go there to film and talk about Atlantis, because I had to deal with the Egyptian government myself with some things, which was really interesting.
I can imagine.
I got a little side story. So it's a terrible permitting process you have to go through, and everybody knows, no matter if you're in Hollywood or New York or wherever, shooting in Egypt is just a nightmare, especially if you're an American. I don't know why. I don't know why it seems to get lost in translation, but it does. So once you go through this crazy permit process, then you arrive in Cairo, they pick you up, go to the government office, deal with the Ministry of Culture, and this is just a funny side story. So I get there. I've just been on a flight for, 12 hours. And I have like a onesie, like jumpsuit on, but I have like a massive scarf, like that wraps around my shoulders and my head. So it's like pants, because I know I have to be totally covered just to be respectful. And so I'm sitting down and we're having the Turkish kind of coffee. It's like I'm already sweating. I've been on a flight for 12 hours and I'm just drinking this coffee like for hours, talking about what I'm going to be filming. And he's like, I like you. He's like, you're really feminine. I'm like, okay. He's like, because most American girls come in here and they got big muscles and they got tank tops on. And I was like, oh, but I'm thinking like, because that's what all girls in production wear when they're on set. And I do too, but in this moment, like I'm all like, like covered up, like completely.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'm not surprised.
Cool. Does that mean you're going to sign the permit now? Because I'm super feminine. Because that'd be great. That'd be fantastic. Please sign. Thank you.
Yeah. Did you act faint from the heat so that they could help you? But yeah, I mean, I think those.
I have one more point about that. Let me finish. So I did a little side tangent of shooting in Egypt. But okay, so when I was there filming, we got access to the Sphinx because they obviously they're like, there's nothing for you to go in. So you can't, as a tourist, go down to the Sphinx. You can stand above the Sphinx and you can look at it. And there's like, it's all dug out. So you can stand down and look down at this like dugout and there's the Sphinx, right? Well, when we were down there, I noticed that there was a bunch of pumps around the Sphinx. So basically, pipes that are capped, but then at night, what they do is when everything's closed, they are pumping water out of something. So what are they pumping water out of? Which is what I asked our guide. And he's like, oh no, there was a flood. And I'm like, but why are they worried that it's flooding underneath the Sphinx if there's nothing under there to flood?
Right.
And then everyone points to, it's actually on my desk right now. There's a little shaft underneath the back of the Sphinx. There's a little door. You can find it in a picture. I went down there, but it's a very small room because people are like, this is the entrance to the Hall of Records, but it's not. It's just it's a tiny little closet. There's nothing in there but garbage.
Damn it.
But the fact that today they're still pumping water out of something, that means there is a bigger shaft on that they're pumping water out of.
Well, I hope that it's not papyrus stuff that was down there, because obviously if there's a lot of water, that stuff's gone. Hopefully it's tablets and stuff like that.
Right.
Hopefully.
So one of the other things you talk about, which is a little bit more on the spiritual side, is the multi-universe and and that we exist in multiple planes at the same time. And then also a little bit of the afterlife stuff. So, with menopause, when we hit 50, 55, and I think even younger people, when they are changing careers or something traumatic happens to them, they start wondering about, what's the meaning of my life? Why am I here? And where am I going when this is done? What's the point of this? Mm-hmm. So you guys explore that a little bit as well. So why don't you talk a little bit about that in terms of something that might be of interest to our older gentlemen who are in that mindset right now?
Of course. Well, like I said to you before, there's only two questions humans ask themselves, and that is, why am I here and where did I come from? So a part of this conversation, most of the conversation up until now has been, where did I come from, right? So you could say, well, my grandparents came from Germany, and, my mother's side is from blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. But then where do they go from there? And then, there's Ancestry.com and all of that. But then the bigger question of, well, how did humans get seated on the planet, or was it God? That whole conversation is, where did I come from? Why am I here is the purpose of your human soul in this body at this time, and what you're supposed to be doing to fulfill whatever it is that you need to fulfill as a soul. And that doesn't mean that you need to be president, or you need to run a corporation, or that you need to have a certain amount of money, or you need to buy a yacht, or all that kind of crap. You can certainly do that, but as a soul, what is it that you're supposed to accomplish? And that's a hard one for people, because you can get all spiritual with it, and you'll say none of that stuff none of that materialistic stuff matters. It's you need to just be with yourself and figure out what that is. Okay, but that's good. But the idea of work and manifesting things is part of the joy of creating on this planet and your soul. So it's like you come to a point in your life where you're thinking, why am I manifesting this stuff? And is it feeding my soul? Do I really love being on my yacht because I feel like I've accomplished something, but at the same time, how am I then giving back into that? I'm also feeding another part of my soul. So there's a lot of conversations we have about this. When I say we, a lot of stuff that I produce, things I talk about, whether it's my podcast or whatever, is that there's no wrong way, or there's no right way or wrong way to do any of this. It's just really listening to yourself. Like, maybe you are supposed to feel what it's like to be in love, and that is only the goal of your soul this lifetime, and everything else is just on the side. Maybe the goal is to build something, to build a company, and to watch it grow and succeed, and watch other people's lives grow and succeed because of it. It's never just one thing. And that's the bigger conversation that you have to have with yourself when it comes to spirituality. And that's where the boring thing of meditation comes in. Like, listen to yourself, or, breathe deep. And it seems really boring, but it has nothing to do about being centered or being calm, although those things do happen. It's more about listening to yourself. Okay, I'm doing this because, and that's not right or wrong, but now I know why I'm doing it. And that is the purpose of your life. And if you can explain that to somebody, whether it's something that somebody finds like really offensive or materialistic, but you can explain it from a place of here, then you're accomplishing what you're supposed to be accomplishing.
Wow, that is deep.
Yeah. Mike is really soul searching right now.
I am. I'm going to go meditate after this. I got to really think about what my life is about. I love it. But let's take it up to the surface a little bit closer to the boring. What is your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
Perfect. Okay, because I heard you say shit earlier, but fuck is the word. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I guarantee you, she has said it. She just doesn't tell you. Right. All right. So by the way, what we're starting now, Mike neglected to inform you, is we're starting a question session that we kind of stole from the Actor Studio. Different questions, but the same concept that we're trying to kind of get deeper into your soul here. So, Mike, I have two questions.
That whole explanation wasn't deep enough. No,
I really kind of faded away.
Take it to another level.
All right. You guys just want to talk to a pretty girl and ask her dumb questions. Okay,
that's right. That's right.
I'm done being smart. All right, ask me the dumb questions.
All right. So, what turns you on and what turns you off? And that's not a sexual question. It's just in life in general.
Okay.
Bullshit.
Go ahead, answer it.
Mike is the horny one. Okay. Yeah. What turns me on? I love a stimulating conversation. I also love I'm trying to put in words. This is such a general thing, but I'm trying to put it in words so it's a little bit more exact. I'm not like a adrenaline junkie, but I like things that like get me going, you know, like whether it's like I'm chasing down a story or I'm jumping out of a plane or like, you know, somebody's just, I don't know, something's happening. It's just, I don't know.
Have you jumped out of a plane?
I have.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. All right. So what turns you off then?
The opposite of that. Just boring, mundane, doing things the same every day.
Editing.
Yeah.
No editing for me.
So other than this profession, what other profession would you have chosen for yourself?
I think I would have been a secret agent. Sounds kind of fun.
Ooh, there's the adrenaline junkie coming out.
Yeah, I have all the skills. I just probably would have burned out my adrenal glands a little bit more, maybe.
That's great.
All right. So, you know, we're talking about menopause and changes men go through. Menopause is very familiar to women and men in terms of the changes that happen. And they're not uniform, but there's no question it's a change. We've noticed, and that's why we started this whole thing, that men go through a change as well. And it also manifests itself in ways like a 65-year-old guy like Mike will divorce his wife and date a 28-year-old girl, right?
Right.
So do you believe...
Well, how's that going?
It's great. Obviously, I'm the horny one, right?
Do you believe that whole thing is real, or is that not real?
You just wanted to ask me if aliens are real, and now you're asking me if menopause happens.
Hey, we ask all our guests this.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like it happens for sure.
Well, did you see your dad go through some changes? Not dating a 28-year-old, but I mean, just emotional changes and stuff like that?
Well, my dad survived cancer twice, so I'm not sure if it's menopause or
that's true.
Cancer.
Yeah.
But I definitely, some older guy friends of mine, I feel like there's a lot more sensitive conversations I can have with them versus a younger guy.
Yeah.
Because they kind of haven't equaled out their testosterone yet. So it's still like banging chicks and hitting the goal, you know? But I mean, and I think like when you're older, you still got goals and you want to have sex with chicks and stuff. But
right.
Like, it's just not, it's like, yeah, but do I want to waste my time with that hot mess? Do I want to think about it for a little bit? Because XYZ will happen. But when you're younger, it's kind of like XYZ will happen, but it'll be a great story. And then I'll go watch football and I'll just tell the guys about it.
Wow. You know, men, boy. Yeah.
True. I do.
So what things would you like to achieve that you haven't already?
I would like to direct either a scripted TV series or a movie.
Oh, we have a TV series for you, by the way.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Yes,
I told you.
man.
I think I told you about the TV
With people
series.
jumping out of planes and shooting each other.
yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what.
Otherwise, I'm not going to do it.
Yes. They're jumping off roofs instead of planes, but
Yeah.
Oh, so like Jackass. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
there you go. Well, that certainly that's something with your experience that is not far fetched. So the last question before we wrap this up is, in your opinion, what will happen to you, to me, to Mike, to any of us as we take off this mortal coil and move on? Where do we go?
How poetic, this mortal coil. Well, this is always up for debate, so I'll just give a couple examples of what people think happens. The one thing I can say that scientifically has been proven is that when somebody dies, they have been able to get on film and register on certain devices that an energy presence leaves the room, leaves the body. There is something that does go somewhere. And the thing is that energy never dies. So that's science, right? So if energy never dies, where does your floating stardust go to? Well, now that's up for debate. So is there such things as reincarnation? If energy just attracts to other energy. So that's scientific as well, right? So like if you're just floating around space, like you're going to attach yourself to something that has like energy. But me personally, I don't think that we die. I don't think our souls die. We just find another body to be in, whether that's an alien body, an animal body, another human body, a plant. I don't know. I think that that's part of the soul experience is trying to see everything from all angles. And so I feel that you shouldn't fear death. You should just live life. I think that's sometimes why I'm a bit of a junkie, is because that idea that I could die gives a gray period of being so close to the end of my life that I appreciate the life I have. I'm not really looking for anything. I just know that at that moment, it reminds me that my life is not that bad, and that's what living is about, and that there's no such thing as dying.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Me too. Yeah.
So,
all right, back to sex questions. Let's go.
Well, I have a question for you. Do you know why older men grow beards? What do you think?
I don't know. I've actually never thought about it.
Don't you think that's a good question?
That's a good question.
Ask a beautiful lady?
I mean, I think it's because they're more distinguished.
No.
Or that they can grow beards? I mean, some younger guys can't grow beards.
That's a good point, but no. Dr. Larry, you want to tell us why?
Well, Mike needs some surgery to fix a little waddle that he's got here. So the beard is to hide that.
That's why older men grow beards, because they're afraid to go to the plastic surgeon and have that lifted. So they grow beards so it can hide it a bit. So when they're hitting on 28-year-old chicks, they don't see it.
Okay.
Yeah. So before I retire, I'm going to have to fix his neck. But
when you're shaking like this, go in and get me. I don't want to wait for that. So let's do it soon.
So here's the thing.
I didn't know that, but I just learned something.
See?
Isn't that great?
We've got so much more that we will be able to talk to, and I think we're going to ask you in the future. Obviously, that we'd love you to come back and talk some more, and maybe even get a little more specific. But in the meantime, people who are listening to our podcast and watching it, go to cosmiccantina.com and watch the Cosmic Cantina. I'll make sure we get the thing right there. .com. Listen, there's some fascinating podcasts there with some really, really interesting conversations with her and her boys there. And you can find Melissa all over.
One of them has a beard.
Oh, really?
There you go. And she's on Facebook, and I think you're on Instagram as well. Follow her there. And again, we really want to thank you for this. It's a little out of our wheelhouse, but it was fascinating, really, really interesting, and we really need to have you come back.
Yes, and it's not out of Larry's wheelhouse. He's a geek and a weirdo. He loves all that stuff. for me, it's like Mission Impossible, adrenaline, that kind of stuff, Wild Wild West. That's my thing. But I wanted to.
It's really not, but that's okay. But anyways, we'll wrap this up for today.
Wait, hold on a second. Are you hitting on me?
Ooh.
Who, me?
Yeah, busted. Oh my God. His wife's gonna really be upset.
I've been married for 37 years. How long have you been married, Larry? 30.
I've been married for 38 because it's 1 year more than you.
Yeah.
I never hear that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a cycle you go through, right? Where you're happy, really happy in the beginning. And then in the middle, you're like, God, this kind of sucks. And then towards the end, it's like, hey, it's much better. And besides, I'm too tired to do anything about it.
Yeah, and he's getting divorced after this.
Yeah.
This is why sees this. I've been happily married for 37 years, so I'm good. Actually, it's 36.
I love you two together. You like both are trying to like one up each other. It's hilarious.
Yeah. That's our thing. We're like brothers.
I'm comic relief for him. Okay, he's funny.
So, anyways, getting back to the end point here. Again, thank you so much for joining us on this, and then we'll talk to you soon, Melissa. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Hi there, I'm John O'Hurley. Who doesn't like raising the glass, quaffing the ambrosia, and telling tall tales with our chums? Well, that's why Saturdays are for the guys. Manopod Podcast. It's a time to recharge that Y chromosome, boost your testosterone, and spend an hour without that pesky apron. It's Saturdays are for the guys at Manopod Podcasts on your favorite podcast channels. Now, every day can be that miraculous day. Come and join us.